Hey fellow vampires, my name is Ulti and welcome to the second part of Sunny's adventure. If you have not seen the first part yet, make sure to check it out in the link in the description. In the last episode we set the rules of this challenge and beat every single boss in the first act using these rules. Here's a small reminder of the rules I have for this challenge. First, I can only play during the daytime in this challenge. I cannot outlevel any V-Blood that I fight, and I have to fight every V-Blood out in the open whenever possible. Firstly, you might have noticed that I expanded my camp a little bit and put up some wooden walls. I thought it would be fun to have the base full of sunshine at all times too. A decision I regretted later for sure when I realized that you never will get the increased refinement and crafting speed, but also the reduced cost in materials. The first V-Blood we are tackling today is Tristan, and luckily after I was done with the stuff in the base, I found him not far north from it. Since there's plenty of shade in Bane, this was not much of a difficult fight. However, after Tristan things would change for sure. The first thing I wanted to do is go to the haunted iron mine to farm iron and get that refinement process going. Of course I wanted to take care of the not one but two bosses that can be found here. First I spent some time mining, and after the mining I wanted to take care of Krieg. Krieg is a boss you can actually pull outside in the sun. You just have to wait for him to actually be close to the entrance of the mine and then pull him out, which took a lot of waiting, and I mean a lot of waiting. I found him in his cove and then he patrolled not towards the entrance but back to his cove. After waiting a few more minutes he actually started to walk to the start of the cave and I had my chance to fight him in the sun. The sun, who he probably also hasn't seen for quite some time. But before he got to the entrance he took out Meredith in the cave. Normally I use this opportunity to take her V-Blood powers, however I felt that would be cheating in this challenge. I wanted to beat her myself. After their battle I had my first chance to beat Krieg in the sun. Krieg is actually not a very difficult boss, however can easily be messed up. When he charges you, you dash through. When he throws the chains at you, you block. You don't stand in his melee AoE attack, and most importantly, be patient and do not ever attack him when his shield is up. And I was not patient at all, and I messed up. I messed up a lot. One time I multi-shot his shield, summoning a total of 8 ants. I died a total of 2 times before I had to wait again for him to come back to the entrance. Instead of waiting, I thought it would be good to take on Meredith, who happened to be near the cave entry. And honestly, I have no clue what abilities she uses. All I know is that she blesses her shots, whatever that may mean. Even though I did not know what she did and the fact she's 10 levels above me, I almost got her on the first try. After dying, I had the idea not to fight her at the cave entry, but on the road in front of the cave. This would give me more shade and make the fight a bit easier. But before I got the chance to do that, Krieg decided to show up again at the entry of the cave. I had to take this chance now and finish him off. I didn't really want to wait again for him. This time I was more patient and I avoided damaging his shield, and he went down fairly simple, just like normal. A small sigh of relief I had here, cause I felt I already wasted so much time. Now Meredith was next, and this time I was going to wait for her to be in front of the road of the iron mine, so I had more shade to work with. The downside of this strategy is that there is a lot of traffic on this road. Not only normal patrolling packs, but also a lot of bosses patrol these roads. V-Bloods, Christina and Jade, but also Vincent make their way on these paths. And the last one was the cause of this wipe on Meredith. Because Meredith stayed in the sun and out of range most of the time, she went down really slowly. And right when I thought I had her, this happened. Not only did I pull Vincent, but also not one but two patrolling packs. I was so close, yet I decided to reset Meredith. I knew I could defeat her, even though I was 10 levels down, so after the reset I quickly healed up and pulled her right in front of the cave this time. And this time I was gonna defeat her here. With less shade and less room, I managed to take her down the first time ever since my first run through of this game, which is a very, very long time ago. Krieg and Meredith costed me a lot of time. Over an hour they kept me busy, so I felt I had to catch up a bit. And on my way back to base I got lucky and ran into Christina. And what a nice change of pace she was. With a decent amount of shade she fell pretty easily, and I felt a sigh of relief after Krieg and Meredith. However, in the back of my mind I knew bigger challenges were still going to be coming in this second act. First I went back to my base and I started melting the iron and empty my bags. While this was happening I set my focus on the next two bosses, which should not pose too much of an issue. First up was Beatrice, and well, Beatrice is Beatrice. Just clean out the town, and then hunt her down. Nothing much to say, this boss is a total freebie. After quickly taking care of the little grandma, I went to Vincent. And I know for most people Vincent is very tricky. If you struggle with him, I would recommend you fighting him around terrain where you can hide. This will help for sure with his charge attack and his AoE cone. Even though my hit points got low during the fight, I recovered and took care of him on the first try. Since I was not too far away from Maya, I decided just to go for her as well, while my iron was still melting. This is another boss that cannot be pulled outside of her tower. When you do, she will just reset. So this was a fight like usual. Before I got back to base, I ran into a caravan and quickly disposed of that, and got some nice loot of it. And this caravan was for sure much easier than the first caravan I saw in the first episode. Then I was back to base, and after expanding a little bit and crafting some gear, I got myself up to level 47. After my gear was complete, it was time to go hunting again. This time the first victim was Bane the Shadow Blade. If you get the hang of Bane, he is actually not too bad. Especially with the help of some unholy skeletons, he is quite simple. Only the intermission phase can be a little bit tricky, but luckily I got out of them relatively quickly. However, to be frank, I still have no clue how this intermission works exactly. If you do know, can you let me know? Thanks! Anyway, he went down on the first attempt with no issue. Leandra was next, and the area where Leandra is covered in shadow. If you want to pull her off the platform to the one below where there actually is some sun, she resets. So this fight was business as usual. And even though she can be tricky, she went down with relative ease by swapping between my longbow and the Reaper during the dark phase to take care of the adds. I stayed on the northern side of Dunley and went for Grethel the Glassblower, which can also not be brought outside. If you walk outside of the building she is in, she will just reset. Unfortunately, this was then just like Leandra, business as usual. After mining some quartz, a real challenge awaited me. Terra the Geomancer is normally one of the easier bosses you can do. However, in this challenge, it's probably one of the hardest bosses. This is because there's literally only a handful of trees in 2 spots on the outer ring which can give you shade. On the first try I got her to roughly 20% before the sun took me out. I needed a bit of luck with some clouds to get her, and on the second attempt during the fight Terra destroyed the tree that gave me some shade on the one of 2 spots, and at that moment I thought I would die again. However, even with minimal shade I got her on this second attempt. This was for sure the hardest challenge so far, and I know there are more harder ones to come, since the boss is relatively easy and just has a difficult location to work with. The end of Act 2 is getting near, with just a few more bosses to go. But I still got some gearing to do, since Octavian, the final boss in Act 2, is level 58. Back in base, I first made myself the necklace unlocked from defeating Leandra and got myself to level 50. At this level I felt I could take care of a few more bosses. First was Frostmaw, which I need to craft thick leather to upgrade my armor. Frostmaw can be tricky, since with his abilities he destroys all trees around him. On the other hand, his snowstorm intermission gives you some shade to work with, so that kinda helps staying hidden from the sun. Anyway, he fell on the first attempt without too much issue. Afterwards I made my way into Mortium and chased after General Elena. Since Mortium is covered in shade, this is another normal fight. I do not know if Elena patrols close to the border, allowing you to pull her out, but after Krieg and Meredith I did not feel like waiting to find out. The fight was quite simple and I took her out easily. While I was in Mortium, I wanted to see if I could take out General Cassius. However, after a couple of attempts, I realized the damage I did to Nightfall Edge at level 50, his sword in the intermission when he becomes immune to damage and summons Ad, was by far not enough to take him down. So after dying a few times, I figured I would come back later for him when I leveled up a few levels. I decided to go back to base and ran into Jade the Vampire Hunter. And even though Jade is the same level as Cassius, I decided to go for her. Since Jade has no real damage check and is mostly avoiding her attacks, which I managed to do, she fell on the first try quite easily. Which was really nice, cause now I did not have to go out and look for her, since she patrols all over Dunley. In order to gear more, I needed to find some books for the study, get some scrolls and maybe get some silver coins. The best spot I found for that is Ruslock Village in Gloomrot. You can find plenty of scrolls here and silver coins to spend at Dunley's market. But it's also quite common to find at least 1 or 2 books by going through a lab of this town. There is a risk though. At this point I'm still level 50 and most of the mobs in this town are around level 57. There's also a level 60 boss, Domina, who patrols here. And even though the boss killed me once or twice, I managed to get my hands on all the stuff I needed to upgrade myself in order to kill the final few bosses in Act 2. After crafting a bit, I got myself up to level 56 and this time I wanted to finish up the second act. First I wanted the revenge on General Cassius and the 6 extra gear levels really made a difference. Now I did have the damage to take care of the intermission fast and I took him out on the first pull. Now there's only 2 bosses left to go and I first went for the one in Dunley Monastery. Raziel the Shepherd. Raziel cannot be fought outside of the chapel in which he resides, so I made quick work of him, even though I performed quite poorly during the fight and took a lot of unnecessary damage. Afterwards it was time for the final boss of Act 2, Octavian. This was one of the bosses that worried me a little bit. In the sun there is not much room to avoid his ultimate ability, where he spins around the room like crazy, dealing tons of damage and throwing axes all over the place. The rest of the fight didn't worry me that much. Yes, his ads can be annoying with the fire arrows, however they can be avoided and blocked and they die quite fast. The big worry was his ultimate. However, on the first try I managed to limit the damage he did to me in that phase and I got him down on the first attempt. Afterwards I went back to base and upgraded myself to level 59, and this is where today's episode will end. Next time we will venture in Gloomrot, the Cursed Forest and Silverlight Hills. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave a like, a comment and subscribe to our channel. And then I hope to see you next week for the 3rd episode of Sunny's Adventure, or maybe on Tuesday for a new castle tour video. Hope to see you then. Bye bye.